Hi, I'm Aiman. Welcome back to another one of my auto repair videos. In this video, I'm going to show you how to install the starter for a 2007 Honda Accord, which also applies to 2002 to 2007, with some minor changes. First off, this is the second part to the previous part on removing the starter for the Honda Accord. And in that video, usually what you're supposed to do is you're only supposed to fold back the intake manifold, but in that video we actually took out the intake manifold. So in this video, I'm going to show you not just how to install the starter, but also put back the intake manifold. Let's get to it. Okay, so first step is to install the starter. Like I say, installation is always the same as removal, but in reverse. So to install the starter, we're going to need to keep in mind that these are the connections. We have the bolt right here. The wire that gets connected under this nut right here. There's a cable here. There are two bolts. This one's a 14 and this one's a 17. And those two bolts you should have with you. In our case, one of them should be a big 17, like this one. And the other one should be a 14 that has a very long shaft. And the big one goes through the big hole and the 14 goes through the smaller hole. So what we're going to do is take a look at where it's supposed to go in. All right. Okay, okay, so we need to look how it's going to go in. It's going to go in just like this with the 17 on the bottom right of that hole. And all I have to do is just angle it inwards. Okay, then you want to, by hand, first put in both of the bolts. Now, when you're installing this regularly, usually the intake manifold will be blocking you, so you have to do this at sort of an angle. You have to insert the starter, do that angle that you have opened up, and then first insert the 14. Screw that in a few threads. Okay, and then install the 17. Spin it a few threads, and then after that, then go back and tighten it either with a wrench or a Milwaukee. Or a cordless ratcheting tool like we have. Like I said, if you're installing this with the intake manifold blocking you, it's going to be a bit harder, but just do it the same way you took it out, but in reverse. Okay. Hello, Aurelia. Now for the bottom. Now, I don't think you have to torque these. Just make sure that they're snug, because the starter in particular is not a moving part, so it's not as important for it to be torqued correctly. Just make sure that it's snug and in place. Okay, so now we're going to connect all the wires and cables to the starter. First one is going to be this wire here, which is covered by a rubber cap. You want to take the nut off of the this thread right here, and if there's a washer, then take it off. In our case, we're going to use the washer from the when we took it out. So this is the old washer. You want to place the ring on top first. You have to position it so that it actually goes in that cutout. Then you want to put the washer. This is going to be very tricky with gloves, but bear with me here. Then you want to tighten the nut on top. So this is going to be a bit tricky to tighten, because I think once it goes past a certain point, then it won't tighten it won't be able to fit a socket in there. But for now, maybe we'll be able to get away with tightening it while it's above this little cap here. Okay. So, as you can see, I can't go any further deeper. Just to be sure, you could probably just angle the wrench above here and then just tighten it like that. After that, you just want to put the rubber cap back on. This is going to be definitely a bit harder with rubber gloves on. I'll do that off camera so I don't waste time. Next, you want to take this connection over here. Oh, no. This connection right here. And then plug it in. Okay, then you want to take this cable right here Oh, did I say connection? I meant this cable right here. And then plug it in. You should hear that click as it plugs in. Then you want to take this cable and plug it in. Now this one goes in a special way, so I have to be careful to make sure it goes the right way. But I'm pretty sure that when you plug it in, it's only going to go in one way because it's keyed. Okay, like this. There we go. And then next, what we're going to do is take these fasteners right here and slot them into the holes that they're supposed to go into. Now, I believe this goes facing upwards, and then it's supposed to slot into this one. Now, on this one, you can see that the slot is actually further out than this one. So you might have a bit of difficulty with placing this into that hole. So we're gonna give it our best shot. And if it doesn't go in, that's all right. I don't think this one is very necessary, especially since this doesn't move that much. Okay, so we're gonna try bending it this way. Oh. Okay. Just enough so that we can plug it in. Just a bit more. I also think the clip is not actually going in. Alright, so we're going to cut the old fastener and replace it with a new one. Okay. And replace it with this new fastener. So I'm just going to match the orientation it was before. And then loop it through. Okay, I'm going to trim that. And now, it's gonna go in here. Oh, there we go. Okay, so if you don't feel comfortable about the zip tie that you have right here, because this one's a bit too big for our use, you can always just use a regular zip tie, slip it through, and then just secure it. And then when you come back later, just cut the zip tie if you're worried about it. What? Sloppy. And zip ties like this are common whenever we work with cars that Uncle Yus has worked on before, because he always uses zip ties. Okay, so now before we insert the intake manifold, we're going to plug in the rest of the connections we have. So we're going to plug in this clip right here, which is broken apparently. And this right here slides onto this tab here until you hear that click. Now there's a clip down here, and that clip is going to clip into this slot right here. And then after we install this, we're going to insert this this wire, which has a little hole down here, onto this tab. And that's going to be a bit hard to show, so I'm explaining it right now. It'd probably be easier to insert one of the connections on here onto this tab and then connect the two wires together, but we'll see. So let's insert it. And like I said before, if you're working with an older car, maybe like 2003, 2005, you probably won't have this black part. So this step will be, you can skip over this step. But maybe this black part, which we still don't know what it is, probably is on the newer ones like 2006, 2007. Maybe that's for the filter. And what we're going to do now is, while we're here, we're going to try to connect that wire, which I can't even show you on camera. Alright, so the connections here are hard to finagle, so it might be easier just to make sure that you do the left clip connection while the intake is like this. And yeah, it's hard for me to show, but the other one, which is the one where you slide the connection on top, this one right here, you could probably do it while the intake manifold is actually on there. So you can probably do this step second and the other clip first. But before we do that, you can put this down for rest. Make sure that this wire goes in front of the intake manifold, and make sure that the wire under goes in front of the mounting arm. We're going to replace this gasket right here. I mean, of course, like, it's probably a good idea to replace it in general because it's kind of banged up now. And we're going to replace it with this gasket that we got here. So we got the pair of these gaskets from Amazon for $15, $16. You could get them for probably $10, maybe cheaper. But if you get them from a hardware store, I mean, from an auto parts store, it's probably more expensive. Like Advanced Auto Parts, probably like $20, $25. Anyway, this part, it's important to make sure that you install it the right way, and you can use the middle hole to make sure that you have it in the right orientation. If it's flipped like this, the hole will be on the wrong side, corresponding to this screw right here. So first, I'm going to install it right here. Okay. And now we'll put the intake manifold on. And for securing this intake manifold, the way that people recommend you do it is outside to inside, and some people do zigzag. I don't know why they recommend that, but that's just the way they recommend it. So I'm going to screw in just a few bolts and nuts just to secure it for now, and then we'll come back later and tighten them. So that's the order for tightening them. Right now what we're going to do is probably just put the nuts on, and this is so that we can wiggle the intake manifold in case we need to make any really hard to connect connections. So just put a few bolts on. Don't be too tight so that it actually tightens. Don't be too loose so that these fall off. Just enough so that you can jiggle this around. And now we're going to connect the rest of the connections. Okay, so now we're going to insert this cable. And the way that goes on is you can feel the tab here. It feels like it's like in the right orientation to just slide this onto it. Okay. And next we're going to take a look at all the, oh yeah, I forgot this cable right here. Let me just feel around for the clip. It should be following this. Okay, I found the clip. Now, okay, they're right next to each other, the clip and the tab. Yeah, so this is why we made the intake manifold a bit wiggly, so that we could fit it into that hole. Okay, you heard that? Okay, so now the connection is fastened. Now we can take a look on the outside and see all the connections that we need to put back together. Okay, so now we're going to look at all the connections that we can possibly connect and connect them. So first off, look at these hoses. We need to insert this one into here. That one you can probably just do by hand and then loop through here. Then same thing with this one. And I believe we haven't disconnected these anywhere else, so they should be okay. On this side, we have far more hoses to connect. First off is this hose right here, and we need to replace this. It's not even a clamp anymore. We need to replace that with a new clamp. So let's squeeze this. Oh. Put this on the top, and then we're going to insert it into here. So after that, actually, I'll do it right now. And I forget if it's all the way. So my handy dandy cameraman, my dad, told me that if you pull it out, you can see that it stopped right here. I was just making sure that it didn't go all the way down here. But, you know, intuition strikes again. All you need to do is loosen this clamp and bring it down. Be careful with these clamps. I was thinking of that when we were working on it before. I couldn't be sure. Okay. There we go. So next what we're going to do is we're going to connect the other hoses. And there's also these clips that we need to insert into these tabs. This clip goes into here. And, well, right now we'll make this connection here. There's also a bolt that goes in one of these holes. And after that, then we have the these two hoses to connect here. So this hose goes here. This hose goes to the right hole right here. So we put the stick here to prevent coolant from coming out. I'm just going to throw that away. We're going to insert that in there. And then we're going to do the same with this hose. Okay, so now we're going to put the clamps on. I figure that the hoses are probably best to do first instead of the these cable clips, just in case they get in the way. And next we're going to connect this cable right here. That one just simply clicks in. All right, so now we're going to connect, we're going to screw in a bolt here. Let me just get that bolt. So that bolt has this sort of round part and then the threads. And then if we take a look at this, there's a little sort of cavity where this protruding part goes into. And that way we can find out which one of these holes is the one that the screw goes into. It goes into this right hole because it lines up with this hole right here. Okay, so now let's screw it in. And you can see, perfect fit. Screw it in. Next step after that is we're going to secure the rest of these cable fasteners. This one goes into this slot, this one goes into this slot, and this bottom one goes into this tab right here. Okay, so we're going to tighten this. So you can see it went quite a long way. So it's a good thing we didn't forget that one. Next step is we're going to loop this into, so it looks like I was a bit too hasty with this clip. This clip is supposed to, oh wait, no, never mind. This hose goes through here. I thought this hose went through here, but this hose hooks into there, and then it goes onto that nub. Then we're going to tighten the clamp onto it. And the old mark is right here, so we're going to bring that down here. Okay. Let's see. Let me just make sure there's no loose ends anywhere else. The next step after this is we're going to bring this big hose back on, and then we're going to do the rest of the connections. But just in case, let me do a final check. Okay. So this hose, the clamp right here, the one that you screwed in, goes onto this end, and you just gotta kind of finagle it in. And the same thing goes for this end, which also finagles in. Now, when you plug this in, you have to make sure that this hole right here goes onto this end, and that this smaller hole goes onto this nub. So we're going to twist this a bit. And actually, hold on. Now I think about it, it'd be probably easier to do this end first. That way you can align it with the holes that it needs to go into. Okay, and while we're here, we're going to plug in this hose. Okay, angle this in. That's weird. I thought I loosened it a lot way more than I did before, but it's okay. Ah, it's mosquitoes, y'all. Okay, this should be loose enough to push this in now. Okay, we'll do a bit more. Yeah, there we go. Whew, finally. Okay. Okay, so we're going to tighten the screw here to tighten the clamp. Make sure that when you fully insert this hose, make sure that this rubber nub lines up in between this metal ridge and this metal ridge. And make sure that it's fully encompassed on the bottom, on the other side that you can't see. And then tighten the clamp. What I mean is that make sure that the hose is fully in, even on the side that you can't see. Now, next step is we're going to tighten this clamp. Let me just move the screwdriver. We're going to grab that clamp with our plier and then put it back on. If you want to make it follow the exact same position it was in when you took it out, then you can do that. But as for now, that final last thing is to make sure that this hose right here is fully inserted onto these nubs. And I guess the best way to do it is just push these together and hope for the best. Maybe you could grab the hose and then pull it through using a plier, but I think right now it looks like it's pretty airtight. After that, it looks like we have all the connections that we need to make on the hoses. So now the hoses and the cables. Always make sure that you go over everything that you did, because you can never be too careful when you're working on a car. After this, the next step is to screw in all the bolts on the intake manifold. Okay, so now we're going to put the top bolts in, as well as the bottom bolt for that mounting arm. And I said earlier that it's outside in, but apparently it's inside out. So we're going to start from the center and then move our way out. So the top bolts and nuts are torqued to 16 foot-pounds, but this bottom one is probably torqued to a bit more because it's for mounting the bottom of it. So we'll use the Milwaukee, which is about 35 foot-pounds. So if you look, I don't even know if you guys can see this because it's a bit dark here, but feel around for the mounting bracket, the arm, and feel around for that hole. And then try to get that bolt in there. And for this step, it's a bit helpful for the intake manifold to be a bit wiggly. I'm gonna have to do this off camera. All right, so we screwed the bottom bolt about halfway in. If you have trouble with doing it, because even I have trouble with doing it with my small hands. If you have trouble with doing it, try using both hands and just like pushing it clockwise with your friction. Now that we have the bottom bolt in, we're going to insert the top bolts. So we're going to do the middle first. Tighten that in. I guess the tightening order is inside out, but we're just going to insert it inside out first. So starting from the center, then going to each side and inserting them. Now for this one down here. And at the same time, we'll do this one over here. Okay. Okay, so since we have to torque this to 16 foot-pounds, don't use a power tool for this, especially don't use the Milwaukee. The Milwaukee can deliver 28 foot-pounds of force, so definitely do not use that to tighten these. Just do it by hand first, and then come in with the torque wrench, because 16 foot-pounds is nothing. This is set right now to 192 inch-pounds, which is the same thing as 16 foot-pounds. So we're going to tighten from inside, center, out. Up. Okay. So that's 16 foot-pounds. Same thing with the nuts here. Same thing here. Now over here. Okay, and finally this one here, this is why we have the extension on here. It has to be 16. Alright, so those are all torqued to 16 foot-pounds. Now we're going to tighten the bottom bolt. Alright, let's torque the bottom bolt. We have this assortment of extensions here, but really you could use any one that makes it longer, just so we can get under this hose. And it might be helpful to have the wiggly extension, this wobbly one, so that you can angle it to reach the bolt. Okay. Okay, and because the Milwaukee has about 28 pounds of torque, then we should be good to go. Maybe it might require a bit more, we'll see. Alright, so now that we have everything tightened, make sure that you don't over tighten this. My dad wanted me to mention that if you over tighten this, you could probably break the gasket inside, so make sure that this isn't over tightened. Next step is we're going to clean up everything else, connect the battery back. Make sure that everything else is well connected. Make sure, like, triple check that everything is connected. After that, we're going to test it, and then after we test it, then we're going to put the cover back on. The cover is just this plastic one. You put it back on, you take these acorn nuts, and then you just screw them onto this terminal and this terminal right here. Okay, so let me just put the battery back on. I'm getting shocked. Okay, so the battery is back on.